with Indigenous peoples. And this is part of our initiative to showcase Indigenous peoples' initiatives on renewable energy to advance a truly just and equitable energy transition. For those who are in the room, kindly introduce yourselves in the chat box, your name, your organization, and the country where you're from, so that we know for those joining this webinar series. I'm Roby Halib. I'm with the Right Energy Partnership with Indigenous Peoples. And to start off, we'd like to show you a video introducing the Right Energy Partnership with Indigenous Peoples. Not sure if it's just on my end. Is there an audio?
None.
No idea.
There's no audio.
None. Colleagues, can you kindly check the audio of the video? So while we're figuring out the audio for the video introducing REP, or the Right Energy Partnership with Indigenous Peoples, REP was established in 2018 as an offshoot of our engagement in the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly on SDG 7, where they're talking about access to clean energy, no? And most of the discussions that were happening at that time were more on the deployment of the technology, but nothing on the human rights impacts of renewable energy, and including the mining of critical minerals that's needed to produce these technologies. The aim of the Right Energy Partnership is to ensure that renewable energy projects are aligned to the recognition and respect of Indigenous people's rights. And the core of our work is to actually facilitate support for 50 million Indigenous peoples to have not only access to energy, but also be able to strengthen territorial governance and advance their right to self-determination in line with the energy transition. Now, this webinar that we have is part of an interlearning series that we are conducting virtually. So just last January, the Right Energy Partnership conducted a regional training of trainers for Indigenous peoples, renewable energy practitioners in Asia. And from that regional training, the Indigenous Peoples Renewable Energy Pathfinders program was established under the REP. The program aims to strengthen interlearning among Indigenous peoples through trainings, virtual exchange sessions, in-person interlearning exchanges, and sharing of resources, technology, materials, experiences, and innovations on renewable energy. The training that was conducted last January is part of our aim to establish regional and national learning hubs for Indigenous peoples on renewable energy. This monthly virtual session is dedicated to advancing Indigenous-led renewable energy initiatives across the globe, not only in Asia, and centers governance, ownership, equity, and self-determination as the foundation
The right
of
energy
sustainable energy
partnership with
systems.
Indigenous peoples is empowering
Okay.
Indigenous communities and ensuring that they are
Maybe
not
we can start the video.
transition to clean energy. By respecting and promoting their self-determined sustainable development, the REP is making a positive impact on their livelihoods and promoting a more equitable and just world. If you want to know more about the Right Energy Partnership with Indigenous peoples, visit our website at rightenergypartnership.org. You may also email us at rep@rightenergypartnership.org and follow our Facebook page at facebook.com/repinitiative.
Okay. Now, to briefly introduce also the Indigenous Peoples Renewable Energy Pathfinders program, we have another video. I hope it will work this time. The audio. Can we go to the next video? Again, to those who just joined, we encourage you to introduce yourselves in the chat box, your name, your organization, and your country. We're facing some technical difficulties, but the video that you're looking at right now is the training, regional training of trainers that was conducted last January that established a pool of Indigenous peoples trainers on renewable energy for Asia, and we're hoping to do this also in other regions for Africa and Latin America. Seems like our videos are not
The Renewable
cooperating with
Energy
us.
Pathfinders is a learning platform initiated by the Right Energy Partnership with Indigenous Peoples. It aims to highlight the climate solutions, particularly on renewable energy, by Indigenous peoples that is rooted on Indigenous knowledge and anchored to development aspirations of Indigenous peoples. It also leverages the leadership of Indigenous men, women, youth, and other members of the community in advancing a truly just and equitable transition for Indigenous peoples. It is a platform that aims to promote sharing of skills, knowledge, experiences, and innovations of Indigenous peoples on culturally appropriate renewable energy technologies, and also aims to establish a learning platform at the community, national, regional, and global level to build a pool of trainers among Indigenous peoples' renewable energy practitioners.
Okay, so for this first webinar series, we're honored to have colleagues from TONIBUNG who will be sharing with us the decades of work that they've been doing in advancing community-based renewable energy systems in Malaysia, but have also been providing support on mini-grid systems in Southeast Asia. We have with us Alice Gipius, the Executive Director of TONIBUNG, Adrian Lasimbang, the Founder and Technical Director of TONIBUNG, and we have Joe Baxter, one of the young engineers of TONIBUNG, who will share with us the work that they're doing. Um, So this will be a year-long learning series. For this month, we have TONIBUNG. Next month, we hope to have Cara Solar, who's also advancing the solar canoes in Ecuador. Now, over to you, colleagues in TONIBUNG, to share your work. Bani?
Okay. All right, Robbie, am I audible? Just want to make sure that
Yes.
yeah, okay. So thank you so much for having us today, especially those join this webinar. I think we are very excited to share some of our work, particularly on developing the community-based RE systems that we have done over the time. So we'll divide ourselves to three segments of the sharing. So I'll start by just providing a little bit of background on what our work is on, especially at our center called Create Borneo, or Center for Renewable Energy and Appropriate Technologies, which is in Penampang, Sabah, where we have hosted several international and also a regional exchange program we have in here. So next slide, please. I just want to give a little bit of background of TONIBUNG first. We are actually organization IP based, established in 1999. In fact, we started as a small youth organization in my village called Nampasan. So we came together and we were looking at how we can support some of our brothers and sisters in the interior. So we started this initiative to bring appropriate technologies such as water and sanitation, energy, and later on we also expanded to other appropriate technologies such as food processing and so on. So the center actually housed a lot of work with regards to research and development, because a lot of this technology that is needed by indigenous communities in especially in Malaysia sometimes is very hard to get. So we also try to uh, look at what are the sort of technology that works, and how we can basically also increase the capacity and also ability to master those technologies. As we started as a small organization, later on we also established ourselves as a learning hub now, and providing sharing about different technologies and supporting the advocacy work of the indigenous movement in Malaysia, particularly on land rights, resource management, and other issues that we face. Next. So for I was sharing about our center. We are very actually in the community itself, and we have a facility, a workshop, and a hostel that we use to house trainees and so on. Check time. We also next slide, please. So our strategy was really looking at how we can take the last mile community, the most remote, the most difficult to reach, as our first mile, because this last mile community requires very specific or special approach, and also how to make sure that the kind of development meets the aspirations and also culturally appropriate. We do a lot of work with regards to community and understanding the problems of the community, and later on looking at what is the best solution for the needs. We have done a lot of work on renewable energy, particularly on micro hydro and also solar. But we also work on other renewable energy sources like biomass and biogas as something that is possibility to answer some of those needs. We want to address these needs of the communities, because a lot of the solutions currently being put forward to indigenous communities very much a market-based solution. And sometimes a lot of this technology is not appropriate, or the community doesn't have any part in the development and also the management of the system. In the end, a lot of this system fails, and communities are back in the dark. So these are something that we have learned throughout the years. That's why we want to make sure that we focus on the capacity building, and also how to make sure that the community can be leading the systems, and also build it so that they also have the sense of ownership, and we make sure that they have the governance structure to maintain and operate those systems. Next slide. So I just want to do a little bit of sharing our work, because we are not just focused in Sabah, but we do a lot of work in Southeast Asia, also looking at how Southeast Asia is especially is at a big risk to be overlooked. Because if you look at the kind of statistics, we can see that Southeast Asia is almost like 100% electrified. But the problem is, if you zoom further in, especially in those countries, we can see that there are still hundreds or even thousands of pockets of indigenous communities, particularly in the isolated area, and they have no means of getting any of the electrification in the village. Next. So to do that, we have actually done a very thorough study to understand at least what is the gap in the data. And in the Sabah state alone, where I come from, we did a statewide study, and we mapped out the whole state, and we found that actually there's still 400 over village that is unelectrified. And we even, to the extent we profiled 203 of those village, and see what are the best option to look at to provide for that. So a lot of the problem is related to the community is very much isolated, and the normal way of bringing electricity through grid extension is either unpractical or too expensive. That is the problem. So what we have done is looking at this data and find some of the most appropriate solution. Next slide. The outcome of the study also shows that the energy poverty is very real in even a country such as like Malaysia, which is an upper middle income country, and yet we still have energy poverty. And if you really zoom in, these are all communities that is been left out, mostly indigenous communities. And also the data shows very clearly that the poverty is also very much related to energy access. So if we correlate the sites and the location of the communities that was mapped in here, it also falls under the poorest districts in the state. So there is very clear correlation between extreme poverty and energy access. Next. So that is why we need to really look at how the strategy to actually bring this demand of community driven energy access. And because this community also located at a very important ecosystems. For example, like a lot of the dots here, you can see these are all where this UNESCO Biosphere Reserve or these marine parks. They are located in islands, and also very important, ecosystem service area. So the community have actually very important role to maintain the natural resource there. But providing electricity is also a need, so that they can play their role as custodian of the natural resource to be better. So that's why we have integrated micro hydro system with watershed management and so on. Next. So as part of our strategy, we actually also adopted the SDG, because if we start up a program, we have to somehow also have very clear goals. And when we started our work over 30 years ago, of course, we were just looking at the technology, but later on, we also try to see how that energy access also related to poverty, and also looking at increasing the resilience of the community through better education. Also looking at how the system can also play a role in mitigating climate change and so on. Next. So over the years, we have actually developed more and more understanding about how and what kind of approach that is needed to ensure that when we bring electricity to the community through this renewable energy, how do we make sure that community can maintain it? So if you look at this diagram, basically that's the kind of 5 elements that is very important when we design our systems, or even any program that you want to bring. So of course, a lot of work is also related to micro hydro, but we also do solar. But in terms of our work, we very much emphasize on the micro hydro systems. If there is any feasibility for that, so we integrate environmental conservation. So we really put emphasis on watershed conservation to ensure that the system have no interruption. We don't make sure the water resource is very much protected, and we want to make sure that the technology development is also very clear, and we have the ability to also maintain the kind of equipment and the technology that we want to give to the community. So we put a lot of emphasis also to train our community operators so that they can operate and maintain those systems. So we are not totally rely on outside engineers and so on. Also technology that can be manufactured locally. So we manufacture our turbines, the components, and especially the load controllers. Now we also expanded on the smart grid system, because we also developed this mini grid system to transmit the power to the consumer. The third component is community ownership. The community needs to be in the forefront, and in fact, we are really pushing that the community should have ownership of the system, from the generation until the distribution of the energy, and the collection of tariff, and how the system is being maintained, paying the operator, and so on. So to do so, we also have to have economic empowerment built into the design. So that's why when we design our system, we have to really take the opportunity to discuss with the community what sort of productive end use they're interested, and so on, and we build it into the design. The last part is actually some strategy on the governance. I think Alice will discuss much more of this, but one of the things that we really see is like we have to have these 5 components in order for us to have a sustainable system deployed in the community. So I think I stop there. I'll pass it over to Joe to explain about the community-based system, and then also the technology deployment. So over to you, Joe.
Yes, thank you, Ban. I hope I'm audible. I think I want to share the community-based model where there is 7 key components that I want to highlight that to ensure the sustainability of the RE system that we develop, because uh, without this key component, the system won't last even 3 to 4 years. The first one is the community itself. We always start with the people and not the technology. And our role here is to identify the real needs and priorities, and of course to build trust and ownership with the communities. And the next one is basically the free, prior, and informed consent. Without their consent, we can't even touch anything in the village to develop the renewable energy. And it's the commun it is the community decision to either accept or to reject any planning that we bring to them, and this ensure respect and to avoid conflict. And then I think the next one is the design itself. Most of our project is very specific based on the community that we develop together with. Basically, there's no similar design in each system. We only have some base design, but overall design of each committee is very different. And of course, we do load assessment and resource analysis to determine what source that are readily available in the community. And we also focus on the reliability and the sustainability of the system. And our focus is not just for the community to have electricity, increasing their livelihood for 5 years or 10 years. We hope we can they can utilize and make use of the system longer than that. And then next one is the field work itself. The community is involved in the very beginning of the construction, and they learn about a lot of hands-on theory and hands-on skills by doing the work together with us. And this also can strengthen their ownership of the system itself. And of course, after we completed the system together with them, we must train the community as a technical operator and the management for the system. And we also train them the operation and maintenance capacity. And also we focus on youth uh, so they can also be participate in managing the system. And then the next one is the operation of the system itself. I want to highlight that this system, this RE system is fully managed by the community itself. They have their own local governance and tariff system to ensure the sustainability of system. And the last one is we look into the livelihood of the community, where this energy can support income generation and improve the quality of life of the community. Next. Okay, there's several technology that we develop in TONIBUNG together with the community. The first part is the renewable energy system itself, where we develop micro hydro mini grids, solar PV or hybrid system. Hybrid is where we combine micro hydro and solar, and also we look into the energy storage and inverter, especially in solar PV. And we also develop a smart and adaptive technology where digital load controller, or known as DLC, uh, developed by us together with several organization to maintain to for the what we call for the micro hydro operation, and the smart grid for and the load management. We also developed that to maintain to look into the load curve um or the operation of the system, especially in hydro and solar. And we also have the IoT ready monitoring system, where we can monitor the system that we develop through the cloud or from online. And we also focus on technology for livelihood, where there's a lot of natural resources in the community, and technology like the solar dryer, water filtration and vending system, and productive and use technology are very crucial for them, so they can increase their livelihood. Okay, next. Okay, next one, I think I want to share why are for us. is rural and indigenous community have unique geography, like I mentioned, and they have a very different load profile and social cultural context. So by doing research and development over the time, it allow us to design the system that actually fit for the community, not just to copy paste the model that we developed in the past. And of course, to improve the reliability and the efficiency of the system. We do continuous testing and innovation to help reduce the system failure and improve load management and also optimize generation. And next one is the localization of the technology. R&D enables adaptation of technology using locally available material and skill, reducing the dependency on external supplier. So basically, we always look into any um, locally available material uh, that in the village. Of course, one of it is to reduce the cost and yeah, cost reduction over time by refining design and standardizing components. System can be more affordable and scalable. Like I was mentioning that we develop digital load controller. Back then, we were importing load controller from outside, but over the time, we have the capability to develop by ourselves, and the cost has been reduced greatly. Next. Okay, next one is training and capacity building. So basically, why training and capacity building one of the important part in the community-based model is the community ownership itself. Um, the system only work when communities can operate and manage the system themselves, and training training them into operators, technician, and decision makers can ensure the system can sustain because we develop a lot of system in the rural area, so we can't maintain them every single time the system encounter any problem or issue. And without local capacity, system fail after external factor leave. And then training ensure the maintenance, troubleshooting, and governance continue. And of course, we also focusing youth and the future leadership. And building skill among young people is to ensure the continuity and prevent knowledge loss. And last one is the economic empowerment. Technical skills create livelihood opportunities. Basically, there's a lot of trained technician and operators have become energy entrepreneurs in the village itself. And training turns energy access into community control and independence. Next. Okay. Yeah, field work. Yeah, I'm sorry for the typo in the slide. Basically, the implementation and the community engagement and fieldwork ensure the design material condition and water flow, solar irradiation, demand pattern, and community priorities. Basically, we from the social baseline study, from the technical feasibility study, to ensure the system can cater all the energy demand in the village. And engaging community in planning, installation, and management build trust and ownership. So basically they feel more involved and the sense of ownership becomes stronger when they participate in all stage of the development of RE. And adaptive implementation is on the ground challenge. Basically, require flexible experience and best solution. Basically, the committee knows more what is happening on the ground, and it is important that we include them um, the implementation and the development of the system goes smoothly. And yeah, community-based renewable energy is not just technical, it also involves governance, tariff setting, and conflict resolution. And fieldwork ensure CBR is people-centered, practical, and rooted in reality. So basically, the community itself is main component in the system, where they're the one who maintain the system, they're the one who govern the system by themselves. Next. Okay, I think this last one on my part is the advocacy itself. Many national energy policies overlook decentralized or community-led system. And doing advocacy, it pushes recognition and support for CBRE. And also advocacy is also important to get access to funding and support. And it unlock financing, subsidies, and partnership for scaling project. And amplifying indigenous voices and making sure the communities are not just recipient but leaders in energy decision making. And the last one is the scaling impact beyond pilot project. Without advocacy, this community-based renewable energy remains small scale. And we did models with the advocacy model, not just nationally but also across the region. I think that's all from my part. I pass to Alice. Thank you.
So yeah, this is the part for the livelihood, where electricity will turn into the community's livelihood. So in Tonibung, we one of those things that we built for the livelihood was the solar dryers, where this solar dryer will dry fruits and also herbs for the community. The community have a lot of what they call product, but it just need a machine for it to turn to something much more valuable. So the solar dryer, it reduced spoilage and it increased the product value. And it also enables a year-round productions where when in the community, when there is a lot of product, especially the seasonal one, it can be dried and stored. And in Tonibung, we also have a water system, which provide a clean water access, which have a filtration and vending machine. So we put one of our project where we put a water vending machine, and it also generates community income and also improve health and reduce costs. One of our main target for the water vending machine was to decrease the usage of plastic bottle. It's for the environment. So we decided to put on a water system, and then the community are the one who do business with the water vending machine. And also the livelihood for the community is the small businesses where there's a food processing like chips, dry product, and tea, and retail of or farmer market. Where one of the project that we have done, we build a hall for the community, which on top of it is the solar panel. And the community have used the hall as one of their socio-economic hub, where they will usually do during the weekends for a farmers market. And also, most of this project for Tonibung project, we have a lot of women-led enterprises, where they have a lot of skill, especially in making craft, food, and many other things. So yeah, they are more what do you call more into businesses, which help their. So in Tonibong, especially on women are the heart of energy where there is a lot of women-led enterprises. Like I said, fruit processing, a small-scale business powered by clean energy, especially micro hydro and also solar. And it'll also increase the income and financial independence for the women's. And women's also participate in decision making,
especially in the village energy committees, and they play an active role in planning and management. So all these voices, especially women and young girls, their voices are included in the FPIC process. So the impact of the community is it improve household well-being, and we have the community have better use of energy for daily needs and stronger community resilience, because in a community-based renewable energy project, women are the main one of the main beneficiaries who use a lot of energy. Next. Back to the SDG, where our mission is to reaching out to the deep, leaving no one behind. So for TONIBUNG, the first place that we go to the deepest part of the rural community. We don't go to where most of other organizations go, which is very easy, where they have roads, things like that. But for us, we go to the most deep, in hoping that someday we will meet the government's the government basic necessities in the middle. Next. And also in our SDG is the goal number 13, climate action and strengthen resilience of communities. So we build solar hall for the community and also micro hydro. So hoping that it can strengthen resilience for the community. Next. And here is the governance. So for TONIBUNG, for the governance, we have 3 tiers where there's community committee, tariff system, and also the maintenance fund. So in the community committee, we have a village energy committee form, and there will be chairman, treasurer, and the operators. This group will be responsible for decision making and the system management. They are very important for the sustainability of the renewable energy system. The second one will be the tariff system. So the tariff system is a community agreed tariff. For example, like the community will agree about let's say 1 ringgit per kilowatt or any flat rate. So we have to make sure that the tariff is affordable but sufficient for the sustainability, and it should be transparent collection system where each month or each week the committee will give information on the billing, especially how much they need to pay for every month. And then on the maintenance fund, this is to use for monthly contribution from users based on meter. So for TONIBUNG, nowadays we are using meters for the communities to pay their tariff. So it is to be fair to everyone, where they only pay what they use. And then this maintenance fund will be used to repair, to buy spare parts, or to upgrade the system. And it is to ensure that a long-term operation without any external dependency. So one of the things that we usually receive a complaint from the community was why the system is the tariff is much higher than what the government have provided. But one of those things that I need to explain to them that the system does not have subsidized from the government. It is there, so the village have to pay slightly higher, a few cents from that what they used to pay for with the government grids. Next. And yes, SDG number 17, partnership for the years. TONIBUNG have a lot of partnership with a lot of organizations. So yeah, we cannot work alone in this in this building renewable energy for communities. So it is it is much better to work together with organization than doing it alone. Next. So from indigenous perspective, so for us, in energy is not separated from land. It is part for our indigenous identity, culture, and our rights. So when we talk about especially renewable energy like micro hydro, we are not talking about just electricity. We territories that communities have protected for generations. Because for TONIBUNG, we have tied especially the micro hydro with the watershed conservation. That's why there's a need for us to take care of the forests in order to making sure that there is enough water for the micro hydro. And then, of course, this is why FPIC is very important. For us, it's just not just one-time agreement. It have to be continuous, and community must always have the right to understand, to question, and even to change this decision. So when they say, when the community does not want the system, then we have to respect their wishes. And most importantly, indigenous communities, they have the right to decide their own energy and what kind of technology to use and how it's managed and how it's benefit them. Energy is not just technical infrastructure, it's a self-determination. Next. So yeah, we will not sugarcoat for our renewable energy practices. So for community-based renewable energy, there is always a challenge on the ground and the reality for the community-based system. So especially in the participation, it varies because not all communities will engage equally. Some in the beginning, they will say they will engage with us, but in the end, only a few will make sure that they are committed to it. And of course, migration. Many youths will leave the village, so there will be a lack of participation from the youths. And where only the people left will be the women, the elderly, and the children that usually contribute to community engagement. The next will be the technical and operational challenges. So maintenance in the remote area is difficult. As you can see the picture there, especially on the road. So this is what TONIBUNG is facing when we go to the rural area. So, and also limited access to spare parts and tools and the need for continuous operator training. Yes. This is one of our challenges where our operators that maintain the community system, they will eventually have other job offer and they will leave the village. So that is why we have to do a continuous medical training so that we have new people that knows how to maintain the system. And of course, weather and terrain, it's affect system performance. And for Malaysia, where it's only they have 2 seasons, which is dry and rainy season. Of course, sometimes with the climate change, the weather is quite unpredictable. Another challenges will be the funding and financial sustainability. So for this system, it need a high upfront investment cost. So, but sometimes we have limited funds for long-term maintenance. And I have to say that for the tariff collection, it can be inconsistent where some community member is unable to pay or unwilling to pay for maintenance. And of course, it all depends on the external funding in early stage. So yeah, that is most a few of the challenges on the ground that we are facing. Next. And for the closing, last mile is often seen as the most difficult place to reach, but from our experience, it is actually where the most meaningful solution begin. What community needs to change is what needs to be changed is not the community, it is the system around them. We need to move away from top-down approaches and support community-led solution. And we must also recognize that energy is not just technical, it's about right, governance, and self-determination. That's all from me, and thank you. Over to you, Robbie.
Thank you, Alice, Bani, and Joe, for sharing the incredible work that you're as you've heard, no, working on community-based renewable energy is not just simply deploying the technology, but it's really a whole gamut of community organizing, strengthening local employment and livelihoods, strengthening governance of the community over the resources, uh, and sustainability for this in running community-based renewable energy. But at the end of the day, as mentioned by Alice, is unstable. But as Mary's, it's in this off-grid, far-flung indigenous communities where most meaningful and sustainable change happens. So we now open, we have a couple of minutes for question and answer. If you have questions for colleagues in TONIBUNG, would want to learn more on the work that they do, you can type your questions in the chat box or raise your hands. And while doing so, maybe it would be good, colleagues, to already flash the feedback QR code also for participants in the Zoom to start pinning it up. Are there any questions? Is there anything that you'd like to know more about the sharing from TONIBUNG? So there's a question here. What are the pros and cons of collaborating with overseas organization like EWB? Alice, Bani, or Joe?
Yeah, maybe let me just start by goes for the pros first. Of course, there are also pros and cons, but I think there's a lot of pros of collaboration with overseas organization. We ourselves were in collaboration with Engineers Without Borders UK for at least 7 years. We have managed to get a lot of inputs from very meaningful inputs, especially on our R&D initiative, doing the electric load controller ourselves. And we have been partnering with organization like the Green Empowerment. They're based in Portland, in Oregon, United States. And for over 25 years, we have actually collaborated, especially on capacity building and also enhancing our capacity to develop the technology ourselves, and also looking at how we can also help others to share some of the knowledge. So we have I think there's a lot of pros there. It all depends on what is the kind of relationship we are talking about. If it's just if it's really like a partnership kind of collaboration, I think that is like actually very, very meaningful. But if you're just using you as a sending like interns, I don't think that that is going to be beneficial. The cons are sometimes it's quite difficult to especially for us who are working on very remote communities, so some of those partners that been sent over to us, it's a bit difficult when it comes to language, because there's always be language barrier. So we end up have to allocate quite a lot of resources to like taking care of making sure that they are also able to communicate effectively, especially if you have very thin resources to go around. So I think that is something that is the cons. But I don't see a lot of negative effect as long as as I say it's about how the partnership is being looked at, and we should be looking at this at the same level, and we are not just like a mere beneficiary of a program that they have already done or have they already decided. So we have to have some sort of hand in designing the kind of program that is appropriate to us, and not just because they want to do a program somewhere in Asia or in Africa and so on. Yeah. I hope that answered.
There's another question. There's another question on who funds the
Solar.
projects, mini hydro or solar, and what are the requirements for communities to be able to access these projects?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Leticia. It's a very good question, especially I think for Malaysia, which is considered to be an upper middle income country. We used to have, when I started this work over 25 years ago, we are still considered like a developing country. We had a lot of access for funds on development funds, especially OECDs and so on. But I think things have changed in 2010, where Malaysia doesn't have any, or we are not able to access to this kind of global funds or anything, because a lot of also what they call focus have shifted to other regions like Africa and other parts of Asia. And we have to really transform ourselves into a social enterprise. So some of the funding that we get is actually looking at corporate social responsibility, CSR, but that is like very one-off kind of program. But there's a shift in terms of funding now, especially on renewable energy due to the climate finance. They have more interest on green and low carbon technology. So we have been working on trust-based financing. So we also get a little bit of support through renewable energy credits, not much, but a lot of the funds that actually comes through to RE projects are derived from RE RECs, and it's faster to us to do these projects. The qualification, again, I have to go back to the study that we have done. We have to have very strong data to support our project. So that's why we have to go down on the ground, collect data. Where are these communities? We have to know how many household each community, and we have to come up with the numbers. So with that, it's easier for us to justify the kind of funds that we need to apply, and having shown that there is no way that the community will get any, like, or the grid is not going to be extended to that community for the next like 10 to 20 years. So those are kind of qualification that have very strong justification to do that. So just some of those tips. There might be some different contexts in different countries, but at least that is where we are going, and we're trying to get bigger funds, direct funding through the global or the climate financing. But again, the challenge is like for indigenous organization, we are seen to be too small, or sometimes we don't have the proper credential to manage bigger funds. So yeah, we are still stuck with small grants and medium grants sort of projects.
Thank you, Bunny. We're running a bit over time, but I hope it's okay with everyone that we extend for a little about 10 minutes. Eggy, your hand is raised. Take the floor.
Thank you, TONIBUNG. You shared a very, very great experience. It's a great work that you guys doing. I cross finger with your work. Let me ask a quick questions. In compare to the um, electricity, which is more costly in compared to the local initiatives. This is because of the thinking about the sustainability itself.
Thank you, Iggy, for that question. I just want to maybe go quickly. Actually, the cost, if you look at the government's price, is actually very high. But because they have subsidies, so of course the tariff is very quite low. So if you compare it to like community base, and if the community there's also government initiative or government energy systems, normally the government project is much more expensive because a lot of the development cost is a bit bloated, and they go through a very complex procurement systems, making a lot of the project is very much, I can say, bloated in terms of price. So if you look at in terms of cost recovery, actually the government system are much more expensive compared to community-based or community-led energy systems. So it's all depends on how we actually look at it. But we tried not to compare government energy systems, because in the community, the only option that the community have is diesel or fossil fuel based generator, and definitely that is much more expensive. So we try not to like compare something that is not in the community, like the energy from the government grid. So because it's going to be very misleading, because the energy that is charged by the government is very highly subsidized.
Okay, there are more questions coming in the chat box. One, how has the FPIC process contributed to the sustainability of projects, and what key lessons can be drawn, particularly for countries like Tanzania facing conservation, extractive, and renewable energy developments? And could energy projects still be successful for communities that are diverse, non-Indigenous migrant communities? What would the challenges be? Over to you, TONIBUNG colleagues.
Hi, for the FPIC, yes, how could it could affect the community? Yes, for sustainability. So yeah, during this session where we will meet with the community. So in the FPIC, we will ask everything with them, whether they agree with this project, or what is the what do you call aspiration when they have this project. So this is all will be asked during FPIC session. But it for us, FPIC is not done just once. We will done it a few times during the project. In fact, it's more sometimes every time we will go to the community if there's a chances, and we will do an FPIC session with them. So yeah, so when we have the voices of everybody, it will help us to determine what kind of system. And then for the sustainability, because we already knows what, especially when you ask during the FPIC, is especially for the livelihood. So yeah, socioeconomics especially for the women, it also will be included. And of course, the tariff is one of those things. The tariff for the electricity is one of those things that will be discussed during all this session. So yeah, everything. So what do you call we when we do this session, we will have high understanding of what the community wants, and in return, it will keep the the sustainability will be managed through the ethics session. And of
And
course,
on energy projects
can
and
you
energy projects that are diverse, what would the challenges be if it's indigenous and non-indigenous communities or migrant communities?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand that question because they few components on it. I think the most problematic will be the challenges will be on the governance system. When we are at least in our experience in Sabah, in Malaysia, it's like when we are doing this with the indigenous communities, we have a very established native governance systems, and we employ or we just adopt the native court system to enforce the community protocols. There's going to be like the key management for the systems, like do's and don'ts, and all it is actually been after being agreed upon during FPIC, it becomes a community protocol, and it's going to be enforced by the native court in Sabah or in Sarawak. But when we do it with the migrant communities, they don't have this sort of strong. How they going to enforce this without having proper law or some sort of power to enforce those. That is the thing. So that's why a lot of I've seen some of my NGO colleagues who are trying to do projects on the migrant communities. They will have issues with energy theft and so on. So they're very hard to enforce the community protocol. That is actually the thing. And the second problem in Sabah is like when we have migrant communities and non-indigenous, normally they don't have rights, proper land rights on the settlement. So the government doesn't want them to actually stay in squatter area. So it's actually illegal to supply electricity in this area. So it's quite tricky, and sometimes some of our NGO colleagues who try to provide electricity in these squatter colonies, they have been actually had problem with the authorities, because they don't want the settlers to be settling in those areas, especially in the mangrove forest reserves and so on. So it's a issue for us in Sabah. So I don't know how to answer that, but at least I know that in indigenous communities we have the native governance, so it's quite clear on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Bani. And we're now reaching the end of time. If I could just add on the question on free, prior, and informed consent, this is actually it's very important that even for us indigenous peoples implementing projects with our fellow indigenous peoples, we conduct FPIC to make sure that one, the project is aligned to the development aspirations of indigenous peoples. Second, that the project is designed based on the actual need of the community. And third, that the project also ensures that the perspectives, needs, and priorities of Indigenous women, youth, persons with disabilities, and other marginalized groups in the community are also heard. It's important that even among us, we implement free, prior, and informed consent in projects that we are implementing, and also ensuring that we're not doing the business as usual approach of a very top-down development, but really ensuring that interventions, initiatives that are being implemented in our communities are aligned to our self-determined development. And with that, we thank you, colleagues in TONIBUNG, for such an inspiring work that you do and for taking on the challenge to be the first in our webinar learning session. Next month, we will be sharing again. We will be sharing another initiative this time from Latin America. So watch out for the announcement in our social media sites of the Right Energy Partnership, but also in our webpage. Thank you so much for attending, and to fill up the feedback form if you know of any initiative that could also be shared in this learning session. Do let us know. Thank you everyone. Have a good day and all the
Thank you so
best.
much. Yeah. So
Thank
all
you,
my
everyone.
also to
Thank
all
you,
my
Tony
Muslim
Bung.
friends, happy Hari Raya, and have a
Idul-Fitri.
Idul Fitri to all who celebrating.
Good night.
Night.
Terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Sonoy, terima kasih.
Iggy,
Kabar baik.
I want to visit you in Timor Leste, Iggy.
I hope so. I'm happy to have you in Timor Leste.
Okay.